Everybody. Thank you so much for giving us your time and your attention for tonight. Tonight, I will be talking about our accounts receivable function on Intech. So first, I'll be talking about the accounts receivable application on Intech. On the first column, we can find the options in which where we're going to be finding all the customer or members information right on this section right here. On the same column, we can find the invoices. These are all the membership dues invoices. In the second column, we are going to be looking at the payments in which we can do adjustments, deposits, and look through posted payments and voiding these transactions. Later on, I'll go more thoroughly about those things. And the third column, the main focal point that we're going to be focusing on is the receipt register and the sales registers. But before we get into applying payments and all the fun stuff on accounts receivable section, I'll be showing you how to push all the invoices and membership information from iMember.
Edmund, sorry,
yeah.
I think they said that the screen is so small. Can you make it bigger? Maybe
yeah.
I don't. Okay.
Is this one better? Get at 200. Now will be the home page of iMember, and I can show you how to navigate to get onto pushing all the invoices and membership information. So first, what we're going to do is going to the third option, right? Buy dues and payments on the left-hand side. So we're going to go ahead and click on that. And then the next step would be clicking on Intacct. And then once we are on this main page right here, currently right now, we do not have any pending member information that needs to be pushed through iMember. To Intacct, I'm sorry. But if there are any member information that needs to get pushed through, we need to upload those information first before we upload the invoices. For the reason that if those information is not yet on Intacct, then the integration of the invoices for those particular members will not be integrated successfully. So secondly, once we are done uploading all those member informations onto Intacct, you'll want to upload the invoices onto Intacct by clicking this button right here. Now, if in the future, if there is any failures in uploading invoices onto Intacct from iMember, simply call or email the financial services team and we'll be more gladly to help you out, resolve the issue. That being said, let's go ahead and jump into applying payments in Intech. Now, the way that we're going to be applying payments, I will be showing you guys multiple scenarios and different situations in which how we're going to be applying payments. So first, we're going to be going to the application drop-down box, click on accounts receivable, and the first column, we're going to click on invoices. Now, once we are on this section, I'll be explaining the first easy and simple scenario in which a member pays in full. And when a member pays in full, we're simply going to click on the apply payment button on the right-hand side, making sure that we select the undeposited funds account button. And then the amount received has to equal the check that the lodge had received from the member. In this case, 1,500. We're also going to be, all the receipt date and the payment date also needs to be entered as for their required fields. So we can tell that they are required fields by the asterisks that are indicated on the top. Check number is not a required field, but it is a good bookkeeping record purposes by putting the check number on this box. Once we had entered the amount received, the receipt date, and the payment date, we're simply going to click the invoice. And we have to make sure that before we click post, that the payment amount is equal to the amount that received, which is 1,500. We're going to go ahead and click post. Now, the second scenario that I will be talking about is when a member adds on the membership dues as a form of contribution or donation to the lodge. And it is highly vital that you guys remember that before we apply any payments, that we have to do the edit to the invoices first. As for if we had already applied the payment to the invoice could not be edited anymore. So in this case, we'll be using the second member by clicking edit. Going down. Now in the second column, we're simply going to put the contribution and donations account. And we need to make sure that we are using a revenue account. We can simply separate the revenue accounts by the first number that needs to be number 4. Any numbers from 6 to 8 or 9 are all expense accounts. So we need to make sure that we select the revenue account, which is 41400. In this case, we can simply input the amount of $10. We're going to go ahead and click post. Now, once we had done that, we can simply see that the new amount that is owed is $1,510. Now we can apply the payment as for it is equal to the amount that the lodge had received. So we're simply going to click apply payment, making sure that the account type is still undeposited funds. The amount received is equal to the amount that the lodge had received, in this case, $1,510. The receipt date and the payment date are also required field, like I said before, so make sure that those information are correct and had inputted. Like I said before, these are not required fields, so they do not have to have any information in them. But if you would like, you are more welcome to enter informations on those boxes. Next, we will be clicking the invoice that we are going to be applying the payment to, and making sure that the payment amount is equal to the amount received, in this case, $1,510. Once we have verified all those information are correct, we're going to go ahead and click post. Another scenario that I would like to talk about is when a member would like to pay their membership dues in increments or create a partial payment. And that one is very simple. So let's say for Mr. Lagala that he would be paying an increment of three increments of paying $500 each. So for their first payment, what we're going to do is click apply payment, making sure again that the account type is under undeposited funds, and the amount received is $500. Making sure the receipt date and payment date have been inputted, and check number, like I said before, it's not required, but you're more welcome to input information on there. Next, we're going to be clicking the invoice, and we will be changing the payment amount to how much the lodge had received, in this case, $500. And now we can also see that the Intacct software had automatically calculated the outstanding amount for Mr. Lagala. Now we will click post. Now, if we scroll down, we can see that his status is now partially paid instead of posted. That means that we had done it successfully. Another scenario that we'll be talking about is if when the lodge gets dues receipt disbursements from Grand Lodge into one whole lump sum check for multiple members. Now, like I had mentioned before we apply the payment and if they had paid through PayPal or Stripe, we would need to make sure that we would edit their invoice and include the processing fee. We can do that by clicking edit. By scrolling down, we would simply add a new account. In this case, will be called bank and credit card merchant account fees. In this case, like I had mentioned before, this is an expense account since it starts at 6. And we will simply put negative the amount of the processing fee in this case, which is 3% of the current membership dues amount, and we'd click post. Now, once we had done the edit, we can go ahead and click apply payment. We have to make sure that the account type is undeposited funds account, just like I had mentioned before. The amount received now is $1,455, making sure the receipt date and the payment date is correct and are filled out. Then we would click the invoice, and the payment amount would be equal to how much the lodge had received, in this case, $1,455. Then we would click post. Now, another way that we can record bank and transaction fees is by creating a under cash management and bank service charge fee. And I can show you how to do that later on. So let's say that through the cash disbursement check that the Grand Lodge had sent out to the lodge, that these next two members had also paid their membership dues in full. So we'd simply click apply payment, making sure that the undeposited funds account is still populated and inputted. And for this one, the amount received is equal to $1,600. And receipt date and the payment date is correct. Then we would also click on the invoice, making sure that the payment amount is equal to the amount that the lodge had received, and click post. Now, the third person within the disbursement check that the lodge had received is Mr. Kitty. So we would go ahead and apply payment for Mr. Kitty, making sure that the undeposited funds account is still selected. That the amount received by the lodge is $1,500. Making sure that the receipt date and the payment date again had been inputted, and the check number. And then clicking on the invoice and clicking on making sure that the payment amount is correct also, and then we'll click post. That being said, now let's say that Mr. Thomas and Mr. Kitty also had processing fee of $45 each. And one way we're going to be recording those processing fees is by going to cash management. And under the first column, we would be clicking on interest and charges. And once you're on this page, we're going to go ahead and click add on the top right corner. We'll be selecting the bank account, making sure the transactions type is a service charge, and we can input here bank, credit card, merchant account fees. Since it's 2 processing fees of $45 each, we'll be putting $90, and it is a service charge. And now we can click save. This way, we are not editing all the invoices since it might be a lot to edit. This way, we can just simply input the total amount of service charge on the disbursement that the lodge had received. Next, I'll be talking about another scenario in which the lodge has Demit or remit the membership dues of a member. In this case, we'll be demitting Mr. Moore. And what we're going to do is click edit on the left-hand side we would scroll down. And then the account that we will be using is 40151, which is the membership dues credit, adjustments, and refund. And then on the amount, we would only put the negative and the amount that he has remitted. And for memo section, we can put Demit / remit. And now we can see that the total due for his invoice on Intech is 0. So we're going to go ahead and click post. And if we scroll down, we can actually see that he has 0 or no value. And those are the main scenarios that I would like to talk about in applying payments. Now, sorry, another way that we're going to be recording other receipts or other payments to the lodge, whether it will be for stated meeting dinner or life membership dues, is by going to cash management. And under the first column, we are going to click on other receipts. So first, I will create a very simple transaction for stated meeting dinner income that the lodge had received. Payer, you have to make sure the receipt date is entered. For payer, we can simply put stated meeting dinner. And the transaction date and the receipt date has to be the same. We have to make sure that we click on the deposit to under the deposited funds account. And then the entries account that we would be using is the stated meeting dinner income. Like I had mentioned before, this is a revenue transaction. So we have to make sure we select the GL account that starts with a number 4. The amount that was received, let's say it's $500. For memo section, we can simply put stated meeting dinner. We can go ahead and click save. Now, another scenario that might come up is what if the lodge had received multiple payments? We can also record that under one transaction. So like I had mentioned before, receipt date. For payer, we can simply put various, since it will be various receipts. Transaction date and the receipt date has to be the same. And then we would click on undeposited funds. Now let's say that the lodge had received a check for stated meeting dinner. So we would select that. But within the same check is also a donation. So we can simply add another one, another column, which we select the contribution donations account, making sure it's the revenue account by making sure it's the number 4. Say $100. Sorry, I forgot to put the memo section. Then you can also click on this plus button if you would like to add more columns, more rows. In this case, another indication that it was on the check was for other income to the lodge, do $5. Once we had done that, we're going to go ahead and click save. Another main thing that the lodge receives are life membership dues. And I can show you how to add a life membership due by clicking add, making sure the receipt date is entered. Payer, we can simply put life membership dues. Check, and the transaction date has to be the same as the receipt date, making sure that we select the undeposited funds. And the account that we would be using is 40160. Or if you would like, you can simply type in life and the life membership dues account would pop up. The amount, in this case, let's say it's 500. And for Memo, we can simply put 5 membership dues. Then we would click save. Now that we had entered all the receipts that and payments that the lodge had gotten, now let's make a deposit. We're going to be making a deposit by clicking the drop-down box, clicking cash management, and under first column, we're going to be clicking deposits. And once you're on this page, we're going to go ahead and click add, the top right corner. And then we will be selecting the bank in which we're going to be depositing the payments to. Click continue. And if you scroll down, you would see all the payments that we had just done. Now, they don't need to be all selected. You would only need to select the payments that you are depositing to. So let's say for the sake of the presentation, I'm going to be selecting everything except for the life membership dues. You can click all of them all at once, or you can also click the top box and it will automatically click all of them, and then you would just unselect the last one. Now on the bank deposit slip, the total amount down here should also total the amount that is on the bank deposit slip when you deposit the payments. And then the date should also be correct for both the bank deposit slip and what is recorded on Intech. Once that is done, you can go ahead and click save. Another thing I'll be talking about is how to record membership due payments. However, we do not see this as a best practice since there are multiple audit issues that might come up in the future. But I can show you another way that you can record membership dues if you do not like the accounts receivable method. One way we're going to be recording membership dues is by going to cash management, clicking other receipts. We're going to be clicking add in the top right corner, entering the receipt date, and for payer, we can simply put membership dues. And the transaction date should be the same as the receipt date. Now, the receipt date is what will be recorded on the general ledger. Now, let's say that the membership due that you are recording is for 2023 dues. If it's for 2023 dues, we have to make sure that the receipt date is changed to 2023, since this is what will be recorded in the general ledger, which means that we still are complying to the accrual basis of accounting, not cash basis accounting. But for the sake of the training, I'll keep it at 2022, making sure that it is undeposited funds. And under account, we would select the annual membership dues, making sure that it is the revenue account by the indication of the first number of the account. And here we can just put the lump sum of the disbursement check that the lodge had gotten from Grand Lodge. In this case, we can put, let's say, $1,000. And on the memo section, we can put multiple members, or you can also select the member or the customer's name. And like I had mentioned before, this is not a best practice since you are not accounting for all the other members on when you're recording this transaction. So audit trails in the future might come into blur when this is the way that it is being recorded. However, it is not wrong to make this type of transaction. Once those information have been inputted, we can go ahead and click save. And that's another way that you can record membership dues. Another thing that we'll be talking about is how to void payments. So first, let's talk about how to void payments that you had made for membership dues. And one way there are multiple ways that we can do that. The first way that I will be showing you guys is by going to accounts receivable. And under the second column, you click on posted payments. And here you can see all the payments that we had just entered. And if you would like to void the payment for one of the transactions we had just made, you can simply click the reverse button on the right-hand side. Go ahead and click OK. Now the reverse transaction date should be the same as the original transaction date, which is this one. So you can simply copy and paste it or type it. It's up to you. And on the memo section, we have it may be due to incorrect member the payment was applied to, or incorrect amount, or incorrect date that it was applied. So you can simply put the reason here. Now, if you scroll down, you'd also see this box. This box is reversing the invoice. So we do not want to reverse the invoice. We're only reversing the payment. That's why we are only concerning about the first section of this page. So we would leave this untouched and then click submit. That's one of the methods in which we can void out the payments that we had done. Another way that we can void out a payment is by going to accounts receivable. Under registers, going to click receipts. And then we would select the bank, the location, click view. And here we can actually see the reversal of the payment that we had done. We can also reverse the other payments that we had done also. In this case, let's say that we are reversing Mr. Cecil Leo Jox's transaction. So we can go ahead and click reverse. And this new page will also pop up, which is the same thing that we have seen a while ago. So we're going to be doing the same thing and putting the reverse transaction date, which is the same as the original transaction date. And in the memo, we can simply put incorrect date and leaving the second part blank. And we're going to go ahead and click submit. So that's the second way that we can reverse the transaction. Now, what if we need to void out the other receipts that we had made? So if the transaction had already been deposited to the bank, the way that you would void it out is by going to cash management. Under the first column, go to other receipts. Here we can see that these two transactions are the ones that we had deposited already. And if you would like to void those deposits, you would just simply click reverse on the right-hand side. It's the same process that we had done a while ago. The reverse transaction date should be the same as the original transaction date. And in the memo, we can simply put incorrect amount. Input it. And we can go ahead and click submit. And we can now see that that transaction have been reversed. Now, let's say that the transaction had not yet been deposited to the bank. We can simply still edit the transaction. And one way we can edit is because of the button on the left-hand side. So let's say for life membership dues, the amount is supposed to be 400 as opposed to 500. So we're going to go ahead and click edit. Keep everything the same. For the amount, we can simply change it to 400. Like I had mentioned before, if the other receipt has not yet been deposited to the bank, you can simply edit the amount on here without reversing the transaction. Click save. Now we can see that the amount had been changed. Now, since we have a little bit of amount of time, I am going to show you the other functions that you can do in the accounts receivable and invoices function. Another thing, one of the things that Intacct has to offer is to print or email any outstanding invoices that that is currently on Intacct. So in this case, you can simply put the start date or the end date, or the use the current month that it was being uploaded. Sorry, I forgot to. So let's use the date 02/01/2019, since that is the date in which the invoice was created. And here, you can actually print or email the outstanding invoices that is still on Intech. However, if you are going to choose to email, it will only email it to the members that has the email address information integrated onto Intacct. And then you can go ahead and click print or email. Another function that is what Intacct offers is when you go to invoices. Here, these headlines at the top section, they are customizable. So let's say that you would like to look at the previous dates in which the invoices were created. You can simply click on the headline and it will automatically sort it from the oldest to the newest or the latest, or vice versa. Or by clicking the amount, it can sort it out from the least amount or to highest amount. Or one of the main things about the search bars at the top is that you can actually look for anything that is just posted instead of all paid or partially paid. You can do those things. And it will show you all those transactions on Intech that are partially paid, posted, or vice versa. And this customer section, if you would like to search for a particular member, you can simply put the %sign and their last name, or automatically generate all the invoices posted or paid from that member. And I think that's it. Thank you for your time. I think we're ready for some questions.